Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Josh Schimmels, publisher and CEO of the Los Angeles Business Journal. It is my honor to host our 5th annual Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Symposium and our very first award presentation associated with it. Last week for part 1, we listened to 3 panels discuss how diversity, inclusion, and equity impacts the growth and the success of businesses and their employees. We helped to define what it is, learned why it matters, and heard from top industry leaders on how important it is to create DEI culture in the workplace. This year, we've added an awards component to the series because it's never been more important to honor DEI champions here in the Los Angeles region. Our hopes are, by doing that, we can showcase the great work that's being done and also encourage more business leaders to get involved on a deeper level. I'd like to thank the DEI champions who have committed their support to this program, all of our amazing sponsors. We thank you for your support of the series and also for everything that you're doing in our community of business. So thank you so much to our 2 diamond sponsors, HNTB and Wells Fargo. Many thanks to our platinum sponsors, AMS Fulfillment, CSUN, DBS Bank, LA Care Health Plan, One Legacy, Quigley Simpson, and RSM. I also want to thank our many gold sponsors, starting with Austin Commercial, Children's Bureau, Clark Construction Group, Hub International Insurance, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Marathon Petroleum Corporation, Rework Work, and SoCal Gas. Thank you all so much for recognizing the importance of this program. All right, well, we are going to start this celebration right now, and to formally kick off our awards program, I'd like to introduce our special guest speaker. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Entertainment Studios and Allen Media Group. Please welcome Mr. Byron Allen. Byron, welcome.
All right, Josh, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody, let's get that pandemic applause going. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm very honored to be here. This is quite a privilege. I'm really blessed. I'm blessed in so many ways. When I think about the fact that, next month I'm going to be 60 years old. So that's always a blessing just to even get this far. That's not to be taken for granted. And when I think, as I've been sitting in my backyard, I've just been thinking about my life quite a bit. And just the things that I've been doing and I want to do, I think about how this is a great country, and we still have a long way to go. But this is an amazing country because it's really about not where you start, but you take that blank canvas and what's going to be your masterpiece. And I've been really fortunate there because when I think about being born without civil rights in 1961. A lot of folks would not have bet on me, given that my mother got pregnant with me when she was 16 years old. And she had me 17 days after her 17th birthday. And most folks would not have bet on her or that little black baby that she was carrying and ultimately gave birth to, that much would amount to for them. And because of this amazing country, that story turns out to be a great story. I remember being a kid in Detroit, Michigan, and I was 7 years old, and it was spring of '68. And I was in the middle of the street playing urban baseball, using a hubcap as home base, and my neighbor's cars as first, second, and third base. And I remember my mother and my grandmother on the front porch started screaming and just hollering and just in such pain, screaming that they killed him, they killed my Martin Luther King. And I looked at them, and next thing I know, less than 15, 20 seconds later, I turned back my head down the street again, was looking down the street, and next thing you know, I was looking down the barrel of a tank, and troops had taken over our neighborhood with rifles and bayonets and dogs, and we were under military siege. And my mother and grandmother started screaming, get in the house before they kill you." And I remember running for what I thought was my life and asking my mother and my grandmother what happened. And explaining that they explained to me that, they hate us. They hate us being America, that they don't want us to have anything. They killed Martin Luther King because he just wanted us to have basic civil rights. And that was the moment at 7 years old. That was the moment I remember losing what I felt was my childhood. That was the moment that I felt like I was a child of war. And that was the moment that I felt like I'm in a country that's at war with me. And that's not a great feeling. And it was something that I always wanted to reconcile and come to terms with. And it stuck with me in a profound way. Thank God my mother didn't turn out to just be beautiful. She also turned out to be brilliant. And she and I ended up going to LA, coming here to Los Angeles for a 2-week vacation. And in that 2-week vacation, she asked me, did I want to stay here? And I said, yes. She didn't ask me why, but I said yes. If she had asked me why, I would have told her I went to the movie theater earlier today, and I saw a movie trailer for 101 Dalmatians, and they said it was coming to this theater next week, and I didn't want to miss it. I never connected the dots and thought I could see it in Detroit. So we ended up staying. And that was the first big lesson, that there was an event that occurred that changed the trajectory of our lives forever. My mother ended up going back to college, and she ended up getting into UCLA. And there was a very fine gentleman at UCLA who saw my mother and saw her passion and saw her commitment to have a better life for herself and to have a better life for her child. And she got into the UCLA Film School, and he leaned in. And that's an important thought there, because it's so key to lean in. Him leaning in and helping this young Black woman who was scared. And let me tell you, when we first came here to Los Angeles, for a couple of years, we were sleeping on sofas and sleeping on floors and kind of going around from friend to friend before we got on our feet and got ourselves a permanent place. So it was really touch and go. But getting into UCLA, education is everything. We can't do enough in this country to make sure that all of our kids are properly educated and they have an opportunity to realize their fullest potential. And because my mother was at UCLA and she ended up getting her master's degree in cinema TV production, she got a job interview at NBC. And she went to NBC and she asked them if she could have a job. And they said no. And she said, do you have an intern program where folks can work for free? And they said no. And she asked the most important question ever to change our lives forever. She asked, will you start one with me? And they said yes. And she started working at NBC, and later she became a tour guide. And when she was a tour guide, I went with her to NBC because she couldn't afford childcare. So NBC Network was my babysitter. And as a little boy, I would just hang out in the studios and try not to be noticed or make noise or get my mother in trouble. And I would just stand in the corner and watch Johnny Carson do the Tonight Show. And then I would walk across the hall and I would watch Flip Wilson do the Flip Wilson Show. Then I go down the hall and watch Red Fox do Sanford and Son. Then I go across the hall and I would watch Freddie Prinze do Cheek on the Man. And then I would go watch him do the local news. And I would watch a local sportscaster named Brian Gumbel do the sports, and a local weatherman named Pat Sajak give the weather. And I just went from studio to studio to studio. And I watched him do game shows and talk shows and soap operas and the local news. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful way to go through life, making people laugh and making television. Once again, another key moment. We had exposure, education, and then we had exposure to something that was unique and different. Up until that point, I wanted to go and work in the factory, which is a great and noble job, but I wanted to go work with my daddy at Ford Motor Company, who worked there for over 30 years, and my granddaddy, who worked at Great Lakes Steel for over 30 years, and these guys never called in a day sick. But we had a different exposure. And from there, I decided this is what I want to do, and I started doing stand-up comedy. And because I was exposed to it, opportunity. And that led to me being the youngest comedian on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, which I was 18, and that opened a lot of doors. And that also led to me writing jokes for Jimmy Walker, and I was on his writing staff as a 14-year-old kid and sitting in his apartment with David Letterman, who had just come out from Indianapolis in a red pickup truck, and Jay Leno, who was sleeping in his car, and Marty Nadler and Wayne Klein, who went on to produce shows like Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days. And we came together every Tuesday and Thursday and learned how to make funny and create funny and make people laugh. And once again, great exposure. But I remember that first time I did the Tonight Show, and I was 18 and I was standing behind the curtain, and I thought, what happens here in the next 5 minutes will change our lives once again forever. And I went out there, and it went well. And fortunately, I made them laugh. And that led to other opportunities and led to a show called Real People, which was the first original reality show on NBC from 79 to 84. And then I was able to travel the country. And I was able to travel the country and really see America, not just LA and New York. And a lot of people think of America as just LA and New York, and it's so much greater than that. And I was able to see these little towns, Coshocton, Ohio, and Waterloo, Iowa, on and on and on. And that was a great experience for me. And once again, I learned how to really connect and really understand the psychology of America. And with that, I decided that I didn't want to be in show business. I wanted to be in business show. And the reason why I wanted to be in business show is because I felt if I was just in show business, that I could be discarded at any moment. You're the flavor of the month this month, and then goodbye next month. I said, but if I learn the business show, then I will be able to be in business show forever. So I went to my first television convention in 1981. I was 19 years old, and it was at the New York Hilton. And I remember walking in, and I asked, who's the best in the business? And they said, Al Massini. And I said, tell me about him. They just said, he's the smartest in the business. He created Entertainment Tonight, Star Search, Lifestyles, Rich and Famous, Solid Gold, blah, blah, blah. I went up and introduced myself to him. And he ended up over time becoming like a second father. And I ended up becoming the son he never had. And he was a great mentor, a great friend, and he taught me a lot. And one of the things he taught me was start where you are. And he said to me, Byron, I started my company, and at the time, his company was doing over $1 billion a year in sales. He said, start where you are. He says, I started at my dining room table, and you can start with yours as well. And that's what I did. So I started my company from my dining room table, much like this one, almost 30 years ago. And I started by selling a once a week, 1 hour television show. And that once a week, 1 hour television show was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I remember calling all 1,300 television stations and asking them to carry my show for free. And on average, they all said no 40 or 50 times. And after about 50,000 no's, I was able to squeeze out 150 yeses. And that was my lineup at TV stations. The bad news is I kept half the commercial time and the stations kept half. I sold my half to national advertisers and they sold theirs to local advertisers. Unfortunately, a number of people didn't want to buy my advertising. So I had to teach myself that business, how to sell my advertising. Then I also had to teach myself cash flow because I could not find any investors. I could not find, people say to me, Byron, how is it that you own one of the largest privately held media companies in the world and you own it 100%? I said, do you want the real answer or do you want the Hollywood answer? And they say, well, I want the real answer. And I say, well, I own it 100%, quite frankly, because I am Black. And one of the big issues in America is that African Americans, especially African American entrepreneurs, don't have access to capital. And so I had to finance it myself. And I couldn't get a bank loan. I had some of the biggest advertisers in the world eventually as advertisers, but I couldn't wait 120 days for them to pay me. And I had to go to factors. And the factors were charging me 26% interest. So to pay for my camera crew and my sound men and my revenue, my factors, my financing, there were days I didn't eat because I couldn't afford to. And there were days that they were turning my phone off because I couldn't pay the phone bill. And my home went in and out of foreclosure so many times, probably, I don't know, 14 times over about a 5-year period. It was insane. But finally, I turned the corner because I never stopped smiling and dialing and dialing and smiling and grabbing more advertisers. And finally, we turned the corner. Then one day we looked up and we were the largest producer of television shows, over 67 television shows and one of the largest privately held television libraries in the world. And with that, I had read an article in the New York Times and I saw that they had spent $23 billion to lay down fiber to the home. And I went to them and I said, I see you guys want to offer 150 channels. I like to offer you 10 of them. They said, tell me what you're thinking. And I told them I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and my daddy worked at the factories. These guys were trying to work 36 hours a day, even though they're only 24 hours in a day. And when I got in television, I'd never seen so much waste in my life. I want to bring Detroit, Michigan, automotive, assembly line mentality to making content. So when I send a camera crew to Concourse d'Elegance, Pebble Beach to shoot the car show, I want them to shoot not just car content for our car network, but shoot content for our cooking channel, and shoot content for our pets channel, and shoot content for our travel channel. They said, we love the idea. And we ended up launching 7 networks. And then with that success, I was able to go buy the Weather Channel. And that was a key moment. And that was a moment that I felt was important to achieve because the Weather Channel is a phenomenal brand, 11 consecutive years in a row, the most trusted news brand in America, and the 5th most trusted brand in America. And I wanted to buy that because at the end of the day, I wanted to break that ceiling. It's the first time that an African-American has owned a mainstream news organization in America. And it's the first time that an African-American owns a fully distributed general market cable network. And I felt that was important because I wanted young Black kids to see us play in the global leagues and not just in the Negro leagues. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just want them to know that you're global and you are worldwide. And I wanted them to see that. Just the way Berry Gordy, remember I was born in the 60s in Detroit, Michigan, helped me see myself differently because of his enormous success and other entrepreneurs like him. And I also wanted to get into the business in a way where young Black kids could see themselves, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera and owning the game, because it's important to own the game, not participate in the game. So that's why we started buying ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox affiliates. And along the way, we produced movies and bought stories, but my favorite one is the one where I bought from Coretta Scott King. She wrote a book called My Life with Martin. And this is an amazing book, and it's one of the greatest love stories of all time, her life with Martin. And she said to me, Byron, you know, as Black people in this country, we've had 4 major challenges. Number 1, end slavery. Number 2, end Jim Crow, which I think was more damaging than slavery, because the moment we were freed, all of a sudden we were the enemy, and it was lynch them, burn them, kill them, incarcerate them. And that's when the genocide kicked in at a full level, at a very high level. And she said, number 3, achieve civil rights. And then she choked up and she said, and number 4, the real reason they killed my Martin, achieve economic inclusion. She said, Byron, they didn't kill my Martin over the I have a dream speech. She said they killed him over the speech he gave at Stanford University, the other America. In that speech, he said, there are 2 Americas. One America has access to opportunity, education, jobs, mentorship. The other America doesn't. There are 2 Americas, and 2 Americas will not survive. We must become one America. We must have economic inclusion and education for all. She said, that's why they killed my Martin. And the hair went up on my arms and changed my life forever. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? You and Martin have done more than enough. We, this generation, will deal with the 4th and final chapter. We will deal with that economic inclusion, one America. So for me, it hasn't been about just having my company or starting a company. When my wife and I met 20 years ago, she asked me, what are you doing with your life? I said, I'm building the world's biggest media company. But along the way, I'm going to change the world for the greater good. And that is something you'll look back on and you will never regret. So folks ask me, why did you file these lawsuits for $40 billion against the world's biggest cable operators? And I said, because I'm opening the door for others behind me. And I believe sincerely in my heart that the greatest trade deficit in America is the trade deficit between white corporate America and Black America. And when we close that trade deficit between white corporate America, and white corporate America leans in and taps into the unbelievable resources and talent and creativity of the African-American entrepreneur, and we close that trade deficit, we will have an even greater country. So when I take these legal actions and I go and I spend millions and millions of dollars of my own money, well into the tens of millions of dollars, and go all the way to the Supreme Court, I'm correcting that trade deficit to make America better. Now, what I've said to the advertising community is, you're spending 170 billion a year, 170 billion a year advertising and promoting. Less than 0.1% goes to Black-owned media, Black-owned, not to be confused with Black-targeted. And I had a white guy ask me, he says, what's the difference between Black-owned and Black-targeted? And I said, I'm glad you asked me that. I said, I just had my baby girl, Chloe, and you just had your baby girl. So let me ask you as a white guy, would you be comfortable with me as a Black man controlling your little white baby's image, her likeness, how she's produced, how she's seen around the world, how others see her, how she sees herself? Can I control your little white baby's self-esteem? Would you be comfortable with that? And he said, no. I said, as a Black man, why would you expect any differently from me? Now that my baby Chloe is here, I'm not asking for a seat at the table. I'm taking one, because I, as her father, have to protect her, nurture her, and make sure she knows she has a place in this world and a seat at the table. So when I say to the ad community, you must include us, that's why. So my latest mission is to make sure that the advertising community leans in. So in conclusion, what I would say to all business leaders, lean in, lean in. Don't take this Black Lives Matter movement and make it the Black Lives Matter donation movement. I almost feel like the donations is racist in itself, because it says, I'm white, I'm superior, you're Black, you're inferior, you need my donation to save your poor Black ass. I don't need savings. I don't want a handout. I want a hand in partnership, an opportunity. And together as fellow Americans, we will continue to make America even greater. This is an opportunity for us to tap into unbelievable resources that we have ignored, whether it's Black, or whether it's female, or whether it's Asian, Hispanic, gay, Muslim. Tap in, because as we tap in, we become stronger. Our diversity is absolutely our strength. And I've seen it, and I've seen it in my own business, and I've seen us do it the right way as a nation, and I've seen it do it the wrong way. And the great prophet Martin Luther King Jr. gave us the information we needed over 50 years ago, and we must follow his wisdom. And this is a great opportunity for us to take it to the next level. And with that, I just want to say thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to be in such great company, and I appreciate you all. And here's to us making it better. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. How about a virtual round of applause and appreciation for Mr. Allen? Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. You know, there were so many amazing messages, and I took notes of just little things that you said. I first want to thank you for reminding us of the Other America speech and the message behind that. I love the comments that you made about closing the trade deficit. Earlier, when you first started talking, you told us a little bit about the importance of starting where you are as opposed to where you want to be. And just wherever you are, whether it's the table in your garage or your living room, you can start there. Own the game. Don't just participate in the game. I think that's really important. And then at the very end, I love this message. You said, I'm not asking for a seat at the table, I'm taking one. So thank you so much. That was incredibly insightful. We appreciate all that you've done with your efforts and actions to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity, not just here in Los Angeles, but globally. And I think we'd all agree that while the world is not all rainbows and sunshines today, we're getting closer every day, and we can continue to make steps. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
All right. Well, we're going to take a look at some of the absolute best, most impressive, and most impactful business leaders who are paving the way. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the class of 2021 award nominees. Congratulations to all of our nominees on both the individual and, of course, the corporate side. All right, it's finally time to announce our finalists in each of the categories and then our winners. We're going to start things off with a bang. Our very first award category is going to be for our CEO of the Year. We have 5 finalists. They are Byron Allen, founder, chairman, and CEO of Entertainment Studios, Allen Media Group. As you heard, he has challenged, confronted, and taken legal action all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court against the biggest entertainment companies in America for racial business practices. Next up, Kelly Coffey, CEO of City National Bank. As the organization's first female CEO, she founded the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force at the bank that has now launched their new executive mentoring program. Founders and co-CEOs, Meilon and Tony Jimenez of Chica Beauty. Growing up as Chinese Latino women, their goal was to revolutionize the beauty industry with a brand that screamed diversity and inclusion. Next, George Pla, founder and CEO of Cordoba Corporation. Under his almost 4 decades of leadership, Cordoba's primary focus has been to support organizations and in educational institutions that uplift and empower disadvantaged communities and communities of color. And lastly, Sarah Terragan, founder and CEO of the NBD Group. Their mission is to focus on client service and advancing equality. She also sits on several boards with a goal to improve the social, economic, and political equality of women. I'm excited to say that today we're going to be honoring 2 of these individuals as our CEOs of the Year. Congratulations to our first honoree, someone you just had a chance to hear from, Mr. Byron Allen. Byron, you're welcome to say a few remarks. Thanks for being here.
Oh, well, all right. Thank you. Once again, thank you very much. I'm very honored. Real simple. I would just say the folks here, you're the best and the brightest. You have enormous power. You can really change the world for the better. Please speak up and lean in. And when you lean in and you speak up, we get great results. Thank you. And I'd like to share this award with my fellow nominees because I think this is something that's more of a collective than an individual. So thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. And we appreciate you being here. All right. Our second honoree for CEO of the Year is Kelly Coffey. Kelly, congratulations. We'd like to have you take yourself off mute and invite you to say a few words.
Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, we are good.
Excellent, great. Well, first of all, thank you, Josh, and thank you to everyone with the LA Business Journal who helped make this very, very special event. And I would like to congratulate all the other nominees and winners. I agree, this takes more than one, and especially Byron, whose incredible journey is no doubt an inspiration to us all. So congratulations, Byron. And of course, I'm accepting this honor on behalf of the more than 5,000 City National colleagues and our leadership team, who are my partners and who are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, the events of 2020 definitely increased the national conversations about racial equity and the deep impact of the pandemic on women and people of color. But our work advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion is a movement, and it's not a moment. And actions speak louder than words. So I just thought I'd share with you just a few of the highlights at City National from the past year that I'm especially proud of. As you said, we launched our first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force to increase our focus and just help prioritize the initiatives and set goals and objectives. And I asked 2 of our key senior executives, Karen Clark and Catherine Crean, to lead those efforts, and it's going quite well, making a big difference. And we created a new mentoring program. And what we did with that is we paired the executive committee members, which are our 20 plus most senior leaders at City National, with Black VPs and AVPs, so 2 levels down in the organization, to focus on our up and coming talent. And I'm really excited about this program, not only because it's a great idea, but also because it came directly from one of our colleagues. I'm a mentor in the program and I'm learning as much from my mentee as I'm hopefully able to help him. We also rolled out an unconscious bias program that we had piloted in 2019. And we started with the most senior colleagues across the bank. We grew our participation in the Black Colleague Alliance by about 35% in 2020. City National offers 11 diversity groups to serve colleagues, such as the LGBTQ Alliance, Women's Network, Asian American Network, Latino Community Network, Middle East and North Africa Alliance. So during the pandemic, they've been critical to help colleagues stay connected. We also piloted inclusive leadership workshops to drive a culture of high performance. And our unconscious bias work is part of that. How do you pull together high performance teams and make sure they're performing at that level? And one that I'm really excited about, we added 10 new partner organizations and 16 new universities across the nation to help us better access diverse talent. I've had the privilege of leading people for more than 2 decades. And if experience has taught me anything, it's that diverse teams are more creative, more productive, and more profitable, and more fun. We talk a lot about diversity, and rightly so, but that doesn't mean just diversity in race and gender to me. Diversity of thought is equally important. And that's why when we hire, we're looking even outside the banking industry to make sure we get the best candidates for some of our most innovative teams. And we're also significantly increasing the percentage of women and culturally diverse leaders in our senior leadership team and across the organization. And we're going to keep on going there. So I've been at City National for 2 years now, but the bank has a long history of supporting its clients and its colleagues and its communities. Last year, we exceeded the $11 billion commitment we made 5 years ago to underserved communities throughout the community, through the Community Reinvestment Act. And we stepped up with a $2 million donation to organizations responding to the COVID crisis. We've also taken a public stand condemning the increased attacks and racist acts against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in our communities. There is zero tolerance for racism of any kind at City National, and we believe we can and need to do more to acknowledge and end the pervasive racism in our country. So I've encouraged colleagues to speak up, not just for themselves, but on one another's behalf, certainly to report any kind of unfair treatment and microaggressions that they see. We took a stand during last summer's protests, condemning the killing of countless Black citizens and making a $360,000 donation to the Equal Justice Initiative, the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, to support this fight for social and racial justice in America. A bank can only be as strong as the communities it serves. And this was all in addition to all of our ongoing giving and volunteering efforts at City National, which is core to what we do. These changes are helping us make a better and more well-informed decisions. We'll continue to listen, take action to make sure all of our colleagues, clients, and communities' voices are represented. And we've seen and heard some great stories today, and I hope it inspires us all to do more. We can all work together to make our workplaces and our culture, our communities, both inclusive and welcoming for all. So thank you so much. Why don't I stop there?
Thank you, and congratulations, Kelly. We did have a chance to hear a little bit more from Byron in his opening remarks. As one of our 2 CEO of the Year honorees, I'm going to have you stay with me for just a couple more minutes here. As there's a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. So, one of the things that I've read is that one of your goals is to humanize the banking industry, and you're focusing on transparency and feedback, and you've even created something entitled Tell Kelly, which is a colleague suggestion program. Which also allows colleagues to reach out to you direct and give you feedback. Why is this important to you?
Well, thanks, Josh. Banking is personal. I think that people think of banks as big and personal places. And, at City National, our clients will never be a number. They're people that we're trying to help achieve their goals and their dreams. And, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and my grandfather ran a community bank in the area. And I think part of why I ended up here, I used to go to work with him as a little kid, drove everybody crazy, I'm sure, wanted to understand what the tellers were doing and greet people coming into the bank. And I think he made it personal, and that's just the way I think we really help one another and the way we operate as a bank. I'm a big believer, you referenced Tell Kelly, I'm a big believer in feedback. I believe that great ideas can come from anywhere in the organization, and I wanted to make sure there was a specific channel that anybody anywhere can put in a suggestion, and every single one I read, every single one gets answered, and we make a lot of changes coming out of that. And I think that's really, really important. We're a bank. Those of you who know us, we're an LA-based bank, and we're a big believer in the entrepreneurial spirit. That's who we bank. That's how we approach business, and it extends to every one of our colleagues, and that's part of what we do. And the other thing I think about City Nationals, we have a true purpose in helping our clients and our communities, and obviously supporting one another, our colleagues. So we're always up for a challenge, meeting the moment, whether it's a PPP program or something that's going on and amid any other kind of crisis, we're going to be here and we're going to make sure we're doing what's right and we're doing what matters. And I think our clients and our communities and our colleagues all deserve that commitment from City National. So we'll be here. We've been here. We were here long before the pandemic. We're here for everybody during, and we're going to be here long after, and continue to improve everything we do and our world around us to the best we can.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I mean, I think it's important as we talk about impact. You know, Byron mentioned earlier, we actually have written about this quite a bit, the importance of more equity when it comes to access to capital. You know, our financial institutions play a large role in that. You've been an advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion throughout your career. Why is that, and tell us about that?
You know, it just makes more sense to me, and I've seen it over and over again, that diverse teams deliver better results. It's just that simple. They're more creative and they're more productive, and you've got a lot of different viewpoints, and you think about things from different ways, and you make a better decision about whatever it is that you're doing. So it's just good business sense, I think. And you know, we're also, obviously, as a bank, we serve a very diverse client base, and if we have more diversity at the table, I believe we're going to do a better job of that. And so, you know, there's a lot of things I could point to. You mentioned capital, which is really important. You know, a number of years ago, I think it was 2017, we opened a branch in Crenshaw District, and it's done incredibly well. And that's about providing more capital to help businesses in an underserved area. And we've done lots of other things, like sponsoring coding classes, both for kids at school and for adults, entrepreneurial classes. So we have, you know, we obviously have capital we can give. We have, we make donations with a large part of our earnings. And then we also want to give of our time and our expertise. That's what we know as a bank. And so we're trying to put that to use wherever we can to help advance the cause. I think it's really important.
Well, thank you. And one quick question before we wrap up here. You mentioned, you know, in prior conversations that we've had, that you think it's more important that women advocate for each other rather than mentor each other. How does that work in particular in the world of finance?
Yeah, I mean, mentoring is important, and I think that's one part of how people can learn and relate to one another. But I think it ties into something Byron said before, you know, lean in, the concept of leaning in. When you have an advocate or a sponsor, they're actually taking action on your behalf. And I've seen that be pretty powerful in the past with women, especially industries like financial services, where women do have less representation at a higher level. So, you know, I have been involved in networks for a long period of time where, you know, I've seen it work that a group of more senior women can get together, sponsor a group of more junior women and get them to more senior positions and help them advance in their careers by not only working with them to think about what they need to do, but actually being their sponsor around the organization to say, you know, you should really think about so-and-so for that job. She's fantastic. And actually being their voice at the table to say they can do this. And I think having an advocate in your corner makes a big difference.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for just spending a few extra minutes with us and letting us get to know you a little bit more about some of the bank's initiatives. Congratulations to our two CEO of the Year honorees, Byron and Kelly.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
All right. So while our other award categories won't have short interviews, we just don't have time for that. We are going to invite our honorees in the other categories to just say a few brief words. And you're also going to be able to read more about our honorees and then each of the finalists in Monday's edition of the LA Business Journal. All right. Well, now I'd like to introduce our next award presenter. She is the VP Government Relations Director, West Division with HNTB Corp. Please welcome Diamond sponsor, Abigail Sanchez. Abigail, welcome.
Thanks, Josh. Byron Allen, sir, to say you are an inspiration and a force is an understatement. Congratulations to you and to all the award winners today. HNTB is honored to participate and support the symposium for the second year in a row. And last week, aligned with our commitment to one another and intentionality around diversity, equity, and inclusion, HNTB had the pleasure to moderate a panel around mentorship and growth. And our finalists and award winners today are no strangers to that. So with that, we'll go to the next award, which is for the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Executive of the Year. The finalists are Tina Bone, Associate Director and Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Initiatives Lead at Protivity. She manages all the DE&I related activities within the office, including workshops, trainings, network groups, and internal panels. Her personal goals involve helping her colleagues feel more comfortable in their own skin every day. Desert Horse Grant, Chief of Innovation at UCLA Hospital System, Senior Director of UCLA Health Research and Innovation, and Co-Executive Director of UCLA Biodesign at UCLA Health. Her Health Innovation Challenge focused on health and equity, and one project was a multilingual app that makes medical information accessible to non-English speakers. Michael Armand, Los Angeles Region Bank President at Wells Fargo. Michael leads a team of over 1,000 people and focuses on team members and development and mentorship. Along with serving with Wells Fargo as the internal committee, he sits on several boards externally, including the Los Angeles LGBT Center. Angela Roseborough, Chief Diversity Officer and Talent Acquisition Lead at Riot Games. She's the first to take on this role at the Riot Games, and under her leadership, they created a partnership with historically Black universities to build more diverse pipelines and committed $1 million of her company contribution in 2020 to fight systemic racism. And on top of that, $10 million commitment to invest in game startups to run by founders who have been underrepresented in the gaming industry. And lastly, Via Van Loo, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Aerospace Corporation. Via has led a comprehensive effort to develop and implement diversity, equity, and inclusive initiatives that create distinct and measurable impact and scalable programs throughout her company. And the winner is Angela Roseborough, the Chief Diversity Officer and Talent Acquisition Lead at Riot Games. Angela, we'd like to invite you to unmute and say a few words. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. First, let me say how honored and humbled I am for this acknowledgement, and to be with all of you and the nominees to do this work is just an honor for me. We know that the work that we do as D&I leaders can sometimes be heavy and most times overlooked. So this recognition is so appreciated, not only for me, but for all of my all the nominees. We don't do this work, or at least I don't, to be praised. I do this work because it's my purpose. And I found this purpose through my daughter, Jordan, initially. She is a top soccer player, competitive all her life. We moved to a small town in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and we had to find a soccer team for her, for women, and we didn't see it. So we ended up putting her on a young boys team at the time. She was 13. She was super excited to play with what she thought was her peers. Week 1, Jordan was super excited. They didn't pass her the ball. She was still okay. She said, "Mom, I'm good. I just have to show them what I can do." Week 2, for those of you who know soccer, she nutmegged, she had scored, she stole the ball, and she scored maybe about 17 times that week in practice. Still didn't pass her the ball. Week 3, the coach said, "Pass her the ball." And that's when I saw the light go dim in my daughter. She tried everything she could, and she still had she started to lose the love of the game that we had spent so much time. So being the mom that I am, we rode like 400 miles each way for her to play for a competitive girls team. She ended up getting a lot of scholarships. She was fine. But when I saw the light in her leave, I knew that that would be my purpose. And it was in my purpose that in every dimension of every difference, that you live and thrive in an environment where you are past the ball. And honestly, I thought this would be like a short-time gig, because the premise of diversity, equity, inclusion is simple. Diverse perspectives lead to better outcome. We heard that. But the reality is that this requires a change of thinking, behaviors, and sometimes unlearning. This challenge, this everyday work does not get easier. We saw that. It's getting harder. Yesterday, I spoke to a young game developer and told her that she was a pioneer. So imagine in 2021 telling a young woman that this is gonna be hard and she's gonna be the only, and telling her it is her burden to pave the way for others. That's a heavy load and a responsibility. And I took this role at Riot Games because I wanted to be part of an industry that was changing. So I don't have to tell anyone that they're the only. Instead, I want a new normal where there are no barriers to passing the ball. I want to be thankful to my incredible leadership and my D&I team and rioters. In the first couple of years, we knew that we had to have diversity at the top of the house. And so we implemented a slate diversity program initiative. And that meant that for every final interview, we had to have a percentage of women or people of color in the final interview. I'm proud to say today that half of our executive leadership team is diverse. Women, 25% are women of color. Also, 21% of our senior leaders are women, and we know we still have work to do. But just to see women lead some of our most largest and most incredible bets has been phenomenal, and I have seen it in our games. And we also know that transformation is not linear, and we have to continue to do this work. But the one thing I want to leave everyone with, that to move together, each of us must create a space and time to be uncomfortable, because this work is certainly that. We cannot be bystanders, we must be activators. And we also must move from passive exclusion to active inclusion. 25 years ago, when I started this journey, being a little girl from the South Side of Chicago, I couldn't imagine that I'd be standing here accepting an award from the LA Business Journal for doing something that's my life's work. And to be honest, it feels so unreal, because I just know that there's so much more work to do and there's so much more progress to make. And that continues to be my journey and the journey of Riot Games. But we know that practitioners can't do this alone. And there's this concept that I've practiced that I call the power of one, that each of us has the power to make a difference. And if each of us takes one action and does one thing to drive more diversity, more inclusion, and more equity, that's when collective progress can happen. I just want to say thank you again for this recognition, but thank you so much more for the recognition of this work.
Congratulations, Angela. It's a pleasure to get to meet you today. Appreciate you sharing that story, the soccer, really the metaphor. I think was really important and probably resonates with a lot of us listening today. So congratulations and thank you. All right, we are going to move on to our awards for Organizations of the Year. We've split this category into 4 based on company size. So we're going to be awarding in the small, medium, large, and then enterprise categories. We're going to start with enterprise, which is our largest company category. Our finalists are Farmers Insurance. In 2020, they joined CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion, which is the largest CEO-driven business commitment to advancement, diversity, and inclusion within the workplace. The goal is to identify, develop, and promote scalable and sustainable policies and corporate best practices to help address systemic racism and social injustice. Next up, we've got Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This year, they have established their Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and confirmed a new Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. LADWP has also conducted one-on-one interviews and surveys for employees and hired local minority firms to assist in reaching their goals. Next, we've got Marathon Petroleum Corporation. In 2020, they hosted over 280 virtual diversity, inclusion, and equity workshops and employee panels, which were attended by over 11,000 employees. They also conduct community outreach and participate in community-led diversity celebrations and educational events. And our last finalist is SoCalGas. In 2020, SoCalGas established the Executive Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The council focuses on the company's efforts in the Black community, gender equality, closing the digital divide, paving the way for future careers, supporting the economic stability of our communities, and much more. Congratulations to our honoree in this category, Farmers Insurance. Accepting the award for Farmers Insurance is Kisa Edwards, Enterprise Diversity and Inclusion Team Lead. Kisa, please take yourself off mute and you're welcome to say a few words.
Thank you, Josh. Hello, everyone, and thank you to the Los Angeles Business Journal for hosting this incredible event and bringing together such a diverse group of people and organizations to celebrate diversity and equity and inclusion in Los Angeles. Like you just introduced me, my name is Kisa Edwards. I serve as the Enterprise Diversity and Inclusion Team Lead for Farmers Insurance. And in my role, my team and I focus on ways that we can help farmers further its commitment to diversity and inclusion in our workplace and in our broader communities we serve. Farmers' longstanding commitment to diversity and inclusion serves as the foundation of our culture and has helped guide the organization in its D&I journey. Recent events in the country have reinforced the important responsibility of large enterprises like farmers, helping to formulate solutions to systemic problems through responsible corporate citizenship. And in the past year, farmers have taken serious actions designed to reinforce our organization's values and strengthen that commitment to diversity and inclusion by continuing to foster and nurture inclusive culture within our workplace, developing enterprise-wide initiatives around talent diversity, supplier relationships, and also advocating for social justice, giving back to the communities we are proud to serve. While we've made great strides in our diversity and inclusion journey, we recognize that there's always more work to be done. So I'd like to thank the Los Angeles Business Journal for this important distinction and acknowledge all of the work by so many at Farmers whose commitment and dedication to their roles have made this recognition possible. So thank you, LABJ, and thank you to our Farmers CEO, Jeff Daly, for your leadership. Thank you to all my colleagues at Farmers for your ongoing support in this very important area. And congratulations to all of today's honorees.
Congrats, Kisa. Next is the large size category, and here are our nominees. Cushman and Wakefield, they made several commitments to their diversity and equity and inclusion efforts, including establishing Black Equity Advisory Board and a specific network of the Asian and Pacific Islander employees called Aspire. Good RX, they made great efforts to create more inclusive products for historically underserved communities, in healthcare, including launching a Spanish homepage and a 10-week American Sign Language program for their employees to learn the basics of the culture. And Northrop Grumman, they've created strategic employee development programs such as the Women in Leadership Program and targeted efforts such as their Inclusive Leadership Conference to engage men in building an inclusive work culture with a focus on diversity and inclusion in all recruiting, hiring, and retention efforts. The honoree is Cushman and Wakefield. Nadine Augusta, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, is here to accept the award. Nadine?
Thank you. Thank you. I am delighted to be here with all of you today, and I thank LA Business Journal for this recognition on behalf of Cushman and Wakefield and our 50,000 employees around the world. We're really honored to be named Organization of the Year for our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within our firm and within the broader commercial real estate industry. It's my top priority to cultivate an environment where all employees at Cushman and Wakefield are given equitable growth opportunities so we can drive innovation and better solutions for our clients. So we are incredibly proud to be among the outstanding companies being recognized today. I joined Cushman and Wakefield in December of 2020 in the newly created role of Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. After just a few months, I can tell you that everyone from senior leadership to each of our employees throughout the firm is genuinely excited and dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Really dedicated to doing the hard work. We're ready for the long-term transformational change that we are aspiring to. And I'm excited for all the good work that's ahead of us. I would like to congratulate all the other winners for their outstanding efforts to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I thank the LA Business Journal once again for putting a spotlight on our collective accomplishments. Finally, I would like to emphasize that I am not the sole person at Cushman and Wakefield that is responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion within our organization. Everyone has a role in ensuring we're successful at making progress. And I would venture to say that that's the truest same for the other companies represented here in this category. We're all on this journey together, and we're more powerful together. So thank you again for recognizing Cushman and Wakefield as a leader in this space. And I look forward to continuing to make an impact along with all of my colleagues at Cushman and Wakefield. Thank you.
Congratulations, team, and really to the entire Cushman team. Outstanding. All right, our next organization of the year is for a medium-sized company. Our finalists are Alston & Bird. They have a diversity liaison program, which is a mentoring program that provides an extra layer of career advisement for all diverse associates. They also conduct diversity leadership training that provides networking, business development, and education opportunities for firm employees. Next, we've got Austin Commercial. Over the past 10 years, they've developed and implemented various workforce and economic development programs, which have proven to be provide meaningful jobs and in many cases careers for unemployed minority men and women in various local communities that they serve. And our finalist in this category is Barnes & Thornburg. They have implemented several initiatives and policies to advance diversity, inclusion, and equity. They enhanced their parental leave policy, committed to business relationships with diverse suppliers, and supported emergency daycare and elder care assistance for their colleagues. It's my pleasure to announce our winner in this category, Austin Commercial. Here to accept is Simeon Terry, Vice President of Diversity Affairs. Simeon, please take yourself off mute and join us to say a few words.
Josh, thank you very much. And thank you, Los Angeles Business Journal, for providing such a great platform for us to be able to showcase and highlight all my colleagues and all the nominees and winners. As my colleague mentioned earlier, we don't do this to get recognition. We do this to make a difference and make an impact in the communities that we serve. On behalf of the over 6,000 employee owners at Austin, we graciously accept this, humbly accept this honor. It's work that we do that we love to do. It's part of our DNA and part of our company culture. I have the privilege of, for 21 years now, working at Austin, and the programs and things were in place when I got there. And I happen to be very blessed to be one of the cheerleaders to kind of drive the ship, so to speak, in that direction. We get great support from our executive board, our senior leadership, and all the employee owners from the top down to the bottom up. And again, it's part of our company culture. We like to think that, this past year, we've all seen obviously a lot of the injustices highlighted and misgivings in the communities. But I like to think that we've kind of taken an approach of, not just taking the D&I just for granted. We think that first, if you're inclusive, you'll have diversity. Inclusion is an act. Inclusion is a verb. It's an action. And so if you're inclusive of your race, gender, age, and all the other differences, religion, and so forth like that, cultures, the diversity will be a byproduct of that. I'm an industrial engineer by degree, and we were taught in school to work smarter, not harder. So if you're inclusive, diversity is a byproduct of it. You don't have to work at diversity. Equity, of course, we want fair and equal treatment across the board. But we've added an A on the end of that. So we kind of formulate the acronym IDEA, and that's access. And to keep all of that going, we got to make sure that we have and provide access across the board for opportunities, that we provide access for resources, and we provide access in relationships. In our business, relationships are strong, both internally and externally. People do business with people they know. People do business with people they're comfortable with, just like we do in our personal lives. So we strive in the communities that we serve to make sure that we're providing access to those types of things. In our workforce and economic development programs over the country, we've been able to establish, we realized that while working with diverse businesses, that was good, but we didn't want to be a company that was compliant. We wanted to be one that was collaborative, and we wanted to make sure that we impacted individual homes and families, people of different colors, races, religions, and ethnicities. And so by doing that, we're able to hopefully grow economically in those communities. And we've been very fortunate to be a part of the LA community and have great support from many of the constituents there. So again, we're very honored and proud to be an honoree and award winner here. We still got a lot of work to do, and we're looking forward to developing relationships continuously in the LA market to help further our initiatives of IDEA. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for that. I wrote down something you said there. I love the idea of looking at the word inclusive as a verb and diversity as a byproduct. Thank you for sharing that. Well said. Congratulations, Simeon. All right, joining me for the second half of the awards, please welcome Senior Vice President of Social Impact and Sustainability with Wells Fargo Bank, our other diamond sponsor, Mr. Greg Shurkin. Greg, thanks for being here.
Thanks very much, Josh. This has been an incredibly inspiring afternoon, and I want to thank everyone for taking part of your day to celebrate the many initiatives and partnerships to make our community a better place to live. Like everyone being honored today at Wells Fargo, we too strive to help our communities overcome the challenges we are facing, keeping equity and social justice at the forefront. We are making a concerted effort to work shoulder to shoulder with nonprofits and small businesses and communities most adversely impacted by the pandemic. And every day, our team members are helping our customers and community partners overcome many of the systemic challenges that have kept too many people from realizing their potential for far too long. So we're proud of the work that we do, and we're proud to join with the Los Angeles Business Journal in recognizing today's honorees. And so with that, I would now like to present the next award, the Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Small Size Organization category. The finalists are Can Social Tonics. Can was founded as an option for consumers looking for alternatives to alcohol. The founders are part of the LGBTQ community and are committed to using their platform to improve diversity, inclusion, and equity within the cannabis industry. Mints. Mints has long been recognized for its dynamic women's diversity and inclusion initiative. I've recently created a director of diversity position focusing on partnerships with organizations dedicated to anti-racism and have committed to increasing the number of Black attorneys at the firm by 50% this year. Sussman Godfrey. Their partners reflect the diversity that is Los Angeles. They are dedicated to improving diversity within the firm and advocating for racial justice in the community through implicit bias training, unlimited gender-neutral parental leave, minority hiring, retention and mentorship, and donation matching to racial justice organizations. And the honoree is Mints. Joshua Briones, their managing member, is with us today. Joshua, we'd like to invite you to say a few words. Congratulations.
Greg, thank you so much. And thank you also to the Los Angeles Business Journal for having these awards that celebrate diversity, inclusion, and equity. I've been practicing law for over 20 years, and in that time, so much has changed in the legal community as it has become more racially, ethnically, and gender diverse. When I joined an AmLaw 100 law firm in 1999, I was one of 2 Latino attorneys in the entire firm. Women partners were also rare. Today, at Mintz's LA office, over 40% of our partners are women. Additionally, roughly 40% of our attorneys in Los Angeles are ethnically and racially diverse. On behalf of Vince, I'm truly honored to accept this award. And again, thank you, Greg, and to the Los Angeles Business Journal for this.
Congratulations, Joshua, and to Mints, the entire firm, on that award. Our next award is going to go to Team of the Year. All right, we've got 5 finalists. First is 5 Acres. The agency focuses on the well-being and mental health of their clients who have experienced abuse or neglect. Their team of specialists are diverse themselves and have formed a social justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion committee to further their goals in the communities in which they serve. Next up, Gensler. Their D&I team has created a 5-strategy approach to fight racism, which involves their recruiting and hiring actions, equitable design solutions, scholarship and mentoring programs, additional job opportunities, and initiatives to amplify efforts through client partnerships. Next up, we've got Magic Links. Over the last year, their DEI team has made a commitment to diversity in their casting and hiring requirements. They amassed employee donations, supported minority-owned businesses, organized protests, and supported mental health days for employees. RSM. In 2020, RSM made a commitment to underrepresented populations to advance education, professional development, and opportunity for minorities entering the accounting profession. Externally, they awarded scholarships to minority students. Internally, they increased training and created forums on meaningful dialogue along with other efforts. And Steinberg Hart, their internal team called JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, has fostered a meaningful action plan to support causes that align with their mission, develop relationships with educational institutions, and establish an equity and diversity audit to ensure that they are creating equitable opportunities and advancement for BIPOC employees. And the honoree is the team at RSM. Their culture, diversity, and inclusion programs are led by Los Angeles and Southwest market leader, Joe Mazza, and CDI leader, Ken Lee. Joe's with us today. Please take yourself off mute and welcome to say a few words. Congratulations.
Thanks, Josh. It's a great honor. Thank you. Thanks to the LA Business Journal. On behalf of the RSM team, which includes 11 employee network groups, more than 300 people locally in Los Angeles, and more than 13,000 people in North America, I'm honored to accept this award. As the largest accounting, tax, and consulting firm focused on the middle market, at RSM, we understand that the diversity of our people leads to our collective success. We thank our people for contributing to our inclusive workplace and for championing inclusion in the community. We're proud to be named an honoree, and congratulations to everyone who's being honored here today. It takes the entire community to move the needle in diversity initiatives, and you're all doing inspiring things. You know, Byron said something earlier. He said two things: lean in, which we all hear often, and he said starting from where you are. We have a term that we use at RSM, and that's lead from where you are. We believe that everyone is a leader or can be a leader, and in your sphere of influence, you should be leading. So to support our activities, we're sharing our internal resources for the benefit of our clients and others who want to drive meaningful change and create a more equitable future. You can view RSM's resources for racial understanding and inclusion by visiting our website, rsmus.com. And pretty soon we'll be also releasing our diversity, equality, and inclusion report, which is slated for release in early April. Again, thank you, Josh. Thank you to the community for all that you're doing. We're humbled to be part of this amazing program, this great community of Los Angeles, and everything that everyone's doing for diversity, inclusion, and equity.
So next, I have the privilege of announcing the Wells Fargo Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Award. And this year, we are honoring LISC Los Angeles. In 2020, LISC launched Ascend LA, a business accelerator program aimed at providing diverse entrepreneurs the resources and market access needed to grow as part of an effort to build the next generation of $1 million businesses owned by women and people of color. The inaugural Ascend program consisted of 100% BIPOC-owned businesses. After completing the program, 60% of these businesses were able to hire new employees or contractors. LISC LA also worked with diverse chambers of commerce and business associations to set up a recoverable grant fund to help food-based businesses open and preserve jobs during the COVID-19 outbreak. Based on the success of these interventions, LISC LA was selected by the city and the county of Los Angeles to administer the LA Regional COVID-19 Recovery Fund, established with the support of Wells Fargo and other foundations and financial institutions. Thanks in part to their efforts, the fund has raised more than $100 million and dispersed approximately 7,500 individual grants to LA small businesses and nonprofits serving our diverse communities. So on behalf of Wells Fargo, I would like to congratulate LISC LA and its executive director, Tanua Rash-Ntuk, on LISC Los Angeles' heroic efforts to help support our communities during this critical time. And with that, let me hand it over to my good friend, Tanua. Congratulations, Tanua.
Thanks, Greg. I really, really appreciate that. And it's great to be able to be honored today. So thank you to Wells Fargo and to the Los Angeles Business Journal. It's great that you are holding this space and this time to be able to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The story of Angela's story and that of the colleagues who have had a chance to tell their stories today have been quite inspiring. I think one of the things that is inspiring is that it's important that people know and understand that most of us, and certainly I'm among those, do this work not because we're looking for recognition. I was reminded I have 3 children actually, and when I was carrying my first daughter, I sat with a mentor and she said to me, be careful what you say, be careful what you hear, be careful what you eat, really think about what you see during this time. And I thought, wow, who cares that much about a little Black girl that I might be carrying? And she said to me, Tanua, you never know. You might be carrying the next president of the United States, the next surgeon, the next person who can cure cancer, the person who will be able to turn our air into a clean reality. And it is that value that I hold, not only for my children, but for all of us and for all of our children. Practicing and focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion is really all about making sure that everyone has the potential to unlock their human potential, because we don't know just what that might mean for this world. On behalf of the entire LISC Los Angeles team, the Best in the LISC network, I want to say that they have worked alongside me and others to ensure that in 2020, we were able to serve and support our diverse entrepreneurs. We look forward to doing that work in 2021 and are very proud to be acknowledged for all that we've done to ensure that all of our communities are places where we unlock the greatest human potential. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you, Tanua. Congratulations to you and your entire team at LISC LA. All right, we are down to our final 2 awards. Our second to last award is for Nonprofit of the Year. Our finalists are Children's Bureau. They're a trusted, innovative leader in child well-being. Their board is diverse by ethnicity, gender, and thought, and therefore their decisions and actions are inclusive of the neighborhoods, children, and families that they serve in Greater LA. Who you know. They are a dedicated organization building community, providing mentorship, and fostering employment opportunities for BIPOC professionals in the media. They create job matching opportunities as well as workshops around inclusion for major networks and production companies. Positive Results Center. The Positive Results Center specializes in mental health awareness and healthy relationships. This year, they're hosting a year-long virtual conversation series entitled Advancing Social Justice and Equity, Opportunities and Possibilities for BIPOC Communities. And our final finalist in this category is STEM Advantage. They mentor, prepare, and inspire women in underserved communities to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. They provide economic and social mobility to underserved groups while providing a vetted pipeline of diverse talent to business. Our winner in this category is STEM Advantage. With us today is President and Founder Leanne Klein. Leanne, please join us.
Thank you so much. Can you see me? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the Los Angeles Business Journal for this incredible honor. We are really grateful for the recognition. And congratulations to all of the nominees for the great work you are doing. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is so important to the nation's recovery and business success. And it's not something that one individual or organization or company or industry can solve. We need to work together, partner, and collaborate. A few thank yous. First of all, thank you to our board of directors and advisory board for your commitment and dedication to our mission and to our students. Thank you to our mentors, internship partners, sponsors, and donors for bringing our program to life. And thank you to our STEM Advantage scholars who are the best ambassadors for our program. They are also great ambassadors for themselves and their families and their schools and their communities. They inspire us every day by their stories, their grit and resilience, and their talent. And as they pay it forward as role models and mentors for young girls and boys, we will have an exponential impact, because if they can see it, they can be it. So if you are looking for a great organization to invest in, please reach out to us. We want to scale our program to support many more students and close the gender and racial gaps in the tech workforce. Please achieve equity. We think equity is so important, and that's a living wage. It's not minimum wage. And if you would like to find diverse talent for paid internships and entry-level positions, reach out to us. My email is leann@stemadvantage.org. That's LEEANN@stemadvantage.org. I also want to invite everyone here today to please join us for a free event that we are hosting in April, Getting Beyond the Starting Gate on April 13th. And you can learn more and you can register for free at our website, stemadvantage.org. So again, on behalf of the students we serve and our board of directors, thank you so much to the Los Angeles Business Journal for this incredible recognition. We are very, very grateful.
Congratulations, Leanne. It's a pleasure to get to know you as well, a little bit more about STEM Advantage. All right, it's now time for our final award of the day. It is for community impact. This goes to an individual who encourages and assists employees to get involved in D&I initiatives in the communities that they work and they serve. There are 5 outstanding finalists that I'm about to announce. First, Lily Acuna, environmental planner with HNTB Corporation. Her job duties include coordinating activities to facilitate employee engagement at HNTB and develop volunteer involvement and inclusion opportunities in the greater LA community. Some activities have included youth education, mentorship, homelessness, and hunger support in underserved communities. Laura Branch, Director of Member Outreach, Girl Scouts, Greater Los Angeles. Under her leadership, Girl Scouts made a concerted and strategic effort to team with 80 community partners and Title I schools in marginalized communities of color. Within the first year, the council welcomed 17,000 new Girl Scouts from underserved communities and connected them with opportunities of engagement and empowerment. Next up, Rianne Gonzalez, Executive Assistant to CEO and Board Liaison, Innovation and Excellence Steering Committee, Chair Sponsor for Union Station Homeless Services. Rianne has encouraged and mentored staff to step up and serves as chairs and co-chairs of the Diversity Network. In addition to her regular job of helping to serve the homeless population, she's also dedicated to finding creative ways to share, educate, celebrate the diversity that makes the organization unique. Next, we've got Jonathan Hodge, Financial Advisor and Senior Portfolio Manager for UBS Wealth Management. Jonathan has dedicated his work to building financial resources and access within the Black community. He recently hosted a virtual event that addressed the topic of legacy from a Black business owner's perspective and stressed the importance of communication, financial planning, and networking. And finally, Teresa Maxwell, DBE Compliance Manager for Skanska USA. Teresa is a community outreach and small business champion. She's an integral part of Skanska's company culture and makes sure that they not only deliver world-class projects, but also provide opportunities for businesses and the workforce in those communities. Our honoree for Community Impact Award is Laura Branch, Director of Member Outreach, Girl Scouts, Greater Los Angeles. Laura, please join us and say a few words. Congratulations.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you to the LA Business Journal for bringing us all together and recognizing the necessary work of diversity, inclusion, and equity within Los Angeles. I am incredibly honored to be receiving this recognition and am inspired by the work of the previous honorees and the finalists. Just very quickly, we need to thank the Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles Executive Leadership Team, Senior Management Team, and Board for embracing innovative approaches and for their commitment to investing in our work as it relates to equity and access for all girls. We need to thank our membership outreach teams and managers for bringing their unique backgrounds and experiences to GSGLA and for a tremendous amount of hard work. And of course, we need to thank our donors, volunteers, and community partners who have truly brought this work to life. Over the past 5 years, I've had the privilege to build and work with membership outreach teams to implement strategic efforts with the focus of ensuring that all girls within our community could benefit from the Girl Scout leadership experience. We really had to change our approach. Previously, we had been focusing on really serving girls who were already being served and serving communities that were already being served by Girl Scouts. So we changed it up and we started to work with our communities communities, to cultivate relationships, build trust, and partner to benefit girls through our program. We've had to address barriers of perception about who we are and who we serve, and create solutions to alleviate the financial barriers of participation while keeping equity as a priority in our organizational culture, service to communities, and within our programs. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can continue to meet the needs of our community as we begin to recover from the pandemic. And I am hopeful that our reach and impact will strengthen with GSGLA's most recent commitments to DEI and A by the completion of our new Innovation Center in Inglewood, our creation of a new DEI and A department, and cross-functional departmental work with DEI. I am just so honored and thankful. So thank you, everyone.
Laura, congratulations to you and to the Girl Scouts. You know, when I read that 17,000, that's just outstanding, and I love that the outreach is expanding. All right, well, we've had just a really impactful afternoon. I want to thank all of our nominees, all of our finalists, all of our winners for joining us today. Thank you to Byron Allen and the Kelly Coffee for joining us early on and giving us more thoughts. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us put this together. We can't do this without you. We can't do this without your support, your input, your insight, in particular last week with our panel discussions. I want to remind all of you watching that Monday's print and digital editions of the LA Business Journal will be highlighting this event. Additionally, if there are people that you'd like to send this to, there's going to be a recorded version of the entire program available on labusinessjournal.com, probably by the end of this week. And if you did miss last week's part one, the panel portion, that is available up on our website right now. So you can take a look at that. Great content. We look forward to hosting you all next year. In the meantime, let's all keep up the great work and making progress. Thank you all. Stay healthy. We'll see you soon.